They called it the Vein, a half-mile corridor of broken buildings and synthetic fog, where forgotten tech pulsed beneath every crack in the asphalt. Neon signs blinked erratically above, like dying stars clinging to the night. The city had stopped caring a long time ago, and honestly, so had I, until the moment I saw her. I wasn't supposed to be there. My route to the substation in Sector Delta got rerouted due to a security lockdown. Some ambassador's kid got shot during a riot. That wasn't new. Peace talks died faster than the power grids here. I ducked into the Vein, hoping to avoid checkpoints. I was tired of showing my ID to bots that blinked twice before scanning my iris like I was always about to explode. That's when I saw the billboard. At first, I thought it was just another AI-generated advert. Red letters stuttered across a high beam like a nervous strobe light. On sale. Typical. The corporations sold everything now. Oxygen, memories, companionship. The real shock wasn't the sign, it was what, or who, was beneath it. She was tied to the support beam with carbon bond shackles, her arms outstretched above her like some cruel effigy. Her skin, if you could call it that, was ash-laced violet with streaks of grime. Strands of silver-white hair clung to her face like wet silk. And those eyes that didn't just look, they pleaded. People passed, dozens of them, heads down, Erlinks buzzing with the latest Voidcast gossip. No one turned, not one. The crowd moved around her like she was part of the urban scaffolding. Just another background prop in a city that built its monuments out of bodies. But I stopped. Her knees were bleeding, not from a fresh wound, but from long hours pressed into gravel. The makeshift sign above her wasn't digital after all, it was painted. Someone had scrawled the letters in crude bioluminescent ink. On sale wasn't a promotion, it was a branding. I stepped closer and her head lifted weakly. There was no panic in her expression, only fatigue, like hope had packed up and left days ago. She tried to speak, but her mouth was dry, her lips cracked. Instead, she simply shook her head. No, maybe a warning. I ignored it. "Hey," I said softly, fingers twitching near the biometric cuffs that hung from my belt. "You're not merchandise." Her brow furrowed. The word must have sounded alien to her. She was one of the off-worlders, probably from the Rim colonies, the kind that were smuggled here, sold off to underground labs, auctioned like tech prototypes. "Don't talk," I whispered. "Just stay awake." I reached up and scanned the shackles. Military grade, smart alloy, voice-keyed. Not something I could break with raw force. But I'd done recon in my old life before I became a systems technician. There were ways. I set my pack down and pulled out a thermal probe. Her bindings shimmered as the scanner passed over them, scorch marks flaring to life in hidden glyphs. Whoever did this, they didn't just want her restrained, they wanted her displayed. "I'm Isaac," I muttered, half to myself, "and I'm gonna get you out of this mess." Her gaze flicked up again, just a fraction sharper than before. Maybe the name meant something. Maybe she'd been waiting for someone to say anything that didn't start with a bid price. Using the probe, I traced the locking sequence on the shackle's surface. My heart pounded. The last thing I needed was a city drone flagging me for interference. But luck, if you believed in it, was still on my side tonight. Click. The first shackle loosened. Her arm dropped like dead weight, and she hissed in pain, clutching it instinctively. I moved to the second one without a word. Sweat dripped into my eyes. The alley stank of ozone and decay. The crowd was thinning, but a few onlookers had paused. Curious, but not enough to intervene. Click. Her second arm slumped forward, and I caught her before she hit the ground. She didn't thank me, didn't speak. Just stared, like she was still calculating if I was a rescuer or the next buyer in line. I lifted her into my arms. She weighed less than I expected, more bone than muscle, more story than strength. Her skin was cold, damp with something thicker than rain. My shoulder lit up with strain, but I didn't stop. I carried her out of the vein into a city that would punish me for this. A city that didn't care what she was, where she came from, or who tied her to that sign. But I cared. For reasons I didn't understand yet, I cared. And that, in this place, was enough to make me dangerous. I didn't take her home. That would have been stupid. Too many eyes, too many censors, too many people who'd rat me out for a few hundred credits. Instead, I carried her through the shadow alleys behind the distribution line near Sector 12, where the infrastructure was so old even the city forgot it existed. I had a maintenance pod there, tucked into an access shaft behind a defunct power relay. Not comfortable, not safe, but it was quiet, and it was mine. She didn't speak the entire way. Her body trembled in my arms, but not from fear. I recognized the signs of hypothermia. Her skin, that otherworldly violet tone, was streaked with grime and old blood. Her silver hair was matted with soot and twisted plastic tags. She looked more like a fallen statue than a living thing. I had no medical supplies, just a repurposed thermal blanket, a hydro pack, and a decommissioned emergency drone I'd rewired into a heater. I laid her down gently on the blanket and powered up the unit. She didn't resist, just stared at the ceiling like she was waiting for it to cave in. "Asira," she said suddenly, voice hoarse, broken like a radio half-tuned. I blinked. "That's your name?" She nodded, barely. "Asira," she whispered again. I couldn't tell if she was telling me or reminding herself. "I'm Isaac," I said again. Her eyes slid over to me, but I saw the hesitation there. Trust wasn't easy to find when you'd been treated like inventory. I didn't press her. I opened the hydro pack and offered it to her lips. She took it, drank slowly, desperately. Some of it dribbled down her chin. When she finished, she closed her eyes. Her entire body slackened like her soul had been bracing for betrayal and found none. "Who did this to you?" I asked. She didn't answer, not with words, but she turned her arm toward me. That's when I saw the brand, a crude, barbed insignia etched into her skin just below the shoulder. It pulsed faintly, reacting to her body's stress levels. Not just a brand, an active tracker. My stomach nodded. That wasn't black market tech. That was syndicate grade, bio-coded, enforced compliance tags, which meant if I'd removed it wrong, it could have triggered a remote failsafe, paralysis, or worse. I was in deep now. Harboring her meant death. Removing the tag meant war. I stood, paced the length of the tiny pod, hands tightening into fists. Why had I stopped? Why hadn't I walked past like the rest of them? "They're going to come for you," I said, not to threaten, but to remind myself of what was inevitable. She didn't flinch, just looked up at me with those ancient hollow eyes and said, "Let them come." I don't know why, but that hit me like a punch to the chest. The strength in her voice wasn't physical, it was defiance scraped from the bottom of a soul that refused to break. "What were you?" I asked. "Before that." "An archivist," she said. "On Eltheris Prime, I recorded memory vaults, cultural legacies, voices of extinct worlds." Her lips curled into something between pride and sadness. "Now I'm product." I crouched beside her, my eyes scanning the tag again. I'd need a spectral key to deactivate it, something I didn't have. But I knew a place, an old black market tech smith called Moxie. She owed me favors. "We need to move you," I said. "Not now, but soon. I know someone who can—" "You shouldn't," she said, interrupting softly. "They'll mark you next." "They already have," I replied. "I touched their property. That's enough." She looked at me like I was some kind of fool. Maybe I was. But I couldn't erase what I saw, the way she'd been displayed, the way the world walked by like she was furniture. The silence around her had screamed louder than any siren. "You ever hold a plasma torch?" I asked, trying to lighten the moment. "I might need backup if this Moxie turns on us." Her brow furrowed in confusion. then softened slightly. "No torch," she said, "but I once disarmed a sentient vault lock with my breath." I blinked. "You what?" "Don't worry," she said, leaning back. "It only tried to eat me once." For the first time, a flicker of something else crossed her face. Humor. Dry and faint, but real. I leaned back too, exhaling. The city still burned beyond these walls. The world still didn't care. But here, in this pod beneath a dead relay tower, Asira was no longer a billboard. She was a voice. And for the first time in a long time, I wanted to listen. The next night, we moved. The risk of staying in the pod too long was greater than the risk of exposure. I wrapped Asira in a scavenged cloak and rerouted the heating core through a gutted courier drone to give her mobility support. She didn't complain, didn't question, just walked beside me like the world owed her silence. The lower districts pulsed under the surface like a dying heart. Neon flickered against rusted alloy walls. Every camera we passed, I blinded with a signal jammer patched through an old comm band. I didn't trust the city. I trusted Moxie even less. But she was the only one who knew how to burn a syndicate brand without frying the nervous system of the person wearing it. "She's got to see you first," I warned. "She doesn't like surprises." "Neither do I," Asira said, voice sharper than the night before. It wasn't trust. It was recovery. Her mind was waking up. That made her more dangerous, and I liked that. We arrived at an old rust hut beneath a transport bridge. Moxie lived here with her drones and poisons. The door scanned my retina, then clicked open. Inside, the air stank of melted copper and something sweet and sick. "Isaac," Moxie croaked from behind a bank of glowing consoles. Her face was all scars and solder burns. One eye was real, the other made of shifting pixels. "Didn't expect to see you again without a bounty on your head." "Give it time," I said, stepping aside so she could see Asira. Moxie's expression didn't change, but her synthetic eyes zoomed in like a lens. "Syndicate tag?" "And a live one," I added. "I need it gone, quietly." "You're not asking for much, are you?" She limped over with a diagnostic wand and scanned Asira's shoulder. The device beeped 3 times, and then went dead. "Clever," she muttered. "It's keyed to a rotating frequency loop, old trick from the Black Vaults." "Can you kill it?" "I can try, but if I slip, her nervous system might reboot into static. You sure she wants that risk?" Asira stepped forward, eyes steady. "I'd rather die than stay marked." Moxie let out a dry, hacking laugh. "She's got steel, I like her." She led us to a slab that once served as a drone maintenance table. Asira climbed on without help. Moxie strapped her down, not out of cruelty, but necessity. If the nerves flared, the spasms could tear muscle. "Talk to her," Moxie said as she powered up the dermal torch. "Keep her focused. The pain's going to dig deep." I nodded and took Asira's hand. Her fingers were cold again, but this time they squeezed back. "Tell me about Eltheris," I said. "What did it smell like?" She blinked. "Salt and sunflowers. There was a field near the archives where the air shimmered gold at dawn." The torch hissed as it ignited. I saw her jaw clench, her eyes flare. "And the skies?" I asked. "Violet," she said through gritted teeth, "with ribbons of light, like dancing spirits." Moxie etched through the tag, laser line by laser line. The smell of scorched flesh filled the room. Asira's back arched. "Breathe," I told her. "Think of the air over those fields." She gasped. "You've never seen them." "Then describe them for me," I urged. "Make me see it through you." Her voice broke, but she spoke. The flowers hummed, low songs, bees with crystal wings, and light. Always light. Her scream was swallowed by the sound of the torch's whine. Moxie didn't stop. She couldn't. The sequence had to be uninterrupted. Then finally, the sound died. Smoke curled from Asira's shoulder. Moxie pulled back, breathing hard. "It's off," she said, "and it won't grow back." Asera collapsed against the table, eyes wide, breathing sharp. Her skin glistened with sweat. I unstrapped her and held her steady. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "I can't hear it anymore." "Hear what?" I asked. "The signal," she said. "The call that told me to obey. It's gone." Moxie wiped her hands with an oily rag. "She'll need rest, but she's free. For now." "Thank you," I said. Moxie grunted. "You owe me more than thanks, Isaac. This isn't over. You've kicked a nest full of razor wasps. They'll come for her. And you?" "Let them," I said. Asera leaned into me, her breath steadier now. I saw it in her eyes again, the strength, the fight, the soul that refused to be erased. We left Moxie's hut in silence. The city didn't notice us leave, but I knew it would remember soon. And when it came knocking, I'd be ready. We didn't go back to the pod. That place was burned now, not by flame, but by memory. I knew the syndicate would track down every thermal footprint, every spike in unauthorized relay access. Instead, we vanished into the undernet, the part of the city not drawn on any map, built by drifters and deserters, lit only by stolen power and shared desperation. Asera stayed close. Her steps were heavier now, more confident, like every moment away from that brand gave her strength. She still spoke little, but what she didn't say weighed more than what she did. We found shelter in a sublayer under an abandoned mag-lift depot. I paid a mech sleeper to clear us a corner room. No questions, no data logs. The walls bled rust, but at least the door locked. I collapsed on a pile of cloth and synthetic leather while Asera sat cross-legged against the far wall, a dim lamp between us. "You look like hell," I muttered, not expecting a reply. "So do you," she said. I smiled despite the weight behind my eyes. "That makes us even." "Why did you stop?" she asked suddenly. "That night?" I didn't answer right away. No one ever asked why in this city, only how much. I looked over at her, the blue glow casting alien shadows across her cheekbones. "Because everyone else kept walking." She tilted her head, not satisfied. "But that's not an answer. You could have been killed." "So could you," I countered. She looked away. "I already was. Just slower." Her voice had no bitterness, just truth. I leaned back and stared at the pipes overhead. The drip-drip of condensation filled the silence. I guess I was tired of pretending I didn't see it, that maybe if I didn't act, it wasn't real, that if I walked past you, it didn't make me part of the machine. "And now?" she asked. "Now I'm a target too," I said. "But at least I'm not a coward." She looked at me then. Really looked. And something shifted. Not affection, not yet, but recognition. Like maybe in some forgotten dream we'd both seen the same sky. "They'll come," she said. "Not just for me, for you." "I know," I said. "That's why we're going to them first." Her brow furrowed. "You want to fight the syndicate?" "No," I replied. "I want to expose them." "How?" "Through their own arrogance," I said. "They catalog everything. Every transaction, every shipment, every loss. There's a vault somewhere with your name in it. A record. A ledger. We get that data, we leak it." "To who?" "To everyone." She was quiet a moment. "You think that will matter?" "Not to the ones already lost," I said. "But maybe to the next Asera who ends up under a neon sign." She stood, slow and steady. "Then we find it." I nodded. "First we'll need access codes, then a tunnel in." "And weapons?" she asked. "Information is the weapon, but yes, those two." That night we rested in shifts. I kept my sidearm under my arm, trigger half-cocked. Asera slept like someone who hadn't slept in months. In the dark, I watched her face, the slight twitch of a dream, the way her breathing slowed finally into peace, and I made a silent promise. I would not let this city erase her. The next day we tracked down someone I hoped was still alive. Tornik, an old data runner turned ghost. He owed me for saving his sister from a memory purge in the halls. We found him in the back of a collapsed music hall, curled in wires and blinking drone eyes. Isaac, he wheezed. Still breathing, I see. Need access, I told him. Vault logs, syndicate route maps, biotrack archives. He chuckled. You planning on punching the moon next? Not the moon, Asira said from behind me. Tornik blinked. Who's the relic? She's the reason, I said. We pull this, we bury them. He stared at her, then spat a wire out of his mouth. You always find the worst kind of trouble. And the best kind of reasons, I replied. He nodded slowly. You'll need a ghost key. I've got one. But it's dirty, traced 6 ways to hell. I'll clean it, I said. You'll owe me a new life if this fails. I already owe you one, he muttered. Tornik handed me a fragment chip, engraved with old-world etchings. Asira touched it gently, and it pulsed. I stared. What did you do? Just told it I wasn't afraid. Tornik stepped back. She's not from here, is she? No, I said. She's what they're afraid of. We left with the chip, and with it, a plan. 1 step closer to the vault, 1 step closer to war. The chip hummed like it was alive. Not a mechanical hum, but something deeper, older, like a language trying to remember how to speak. Asira held it in her palm as we moved through the arteries of the city, her fingers curled around it with care I'd only seen priests give to relics. Tornik's data gave us a lead. Vault Delta 7, a low-tier syndicate memory storage facility hidden beneath a defunct comms tower. It was where they archived lesser intel, shipment trails, client logs, security footage that didn't matter until it suddenly did. That meant it wouldn't be heavily guarded, not because it wasn't valuable, but because they didn't think anyone would dare to dig into the bones. We approached at night, not because the dark helped anymore, the surveillance grids ran on heat and heartbeat, but because I liked pretending it did. Asira wore a cloak stitched from signal-dampening fiber. I had a jammer in my boot, patched with Tornik's override software. We looked like ghosts because we had to be. The tower above the vault loomed like a forgotten god, rust streaking down its side like dried blood. I scanned the perimeter. 2 guards, human, wired. Their pupils flickered with HUD overlays. I hated fighting people like that, not because they were skilled, but because most of them had no idea they'd sold their minds. I drew my pistol and handed Asira a compact stunner. If something moves, you shoot. No hesitation. She took it without question. I don't miss. I believed her. We moved in silence, flanking the guards. One went down with a dart to the neck, non-lethal. But his system would take hours to reboot. The other turned just as I dropped, catching me in his peripheral. He shouted, static-filled, clipped. I tackled him before the alert could go full band, slammed his head into the tower's base. He crumpled, twitching. You okay? I asked. Asira nodded, her hand steady, the stunner still aimed. Let's move. The vault door was biometric, but Tornik's chip held a master echo, an old template stolen from a dead handler. I pressed it into the reader. The wall stuttered, blinked, and then groaned open. The vault smelled like cold metal and unspoken truths. Rows of memory canisters lined the walls, glowing faintly with data pulses. Each one was labeled with a code. No names, just barcodes like graves without markers. Asira moved ahead of me, drawn like a magnet. They kept pieces of me here, she whispered. What do you mean? When they took me, they copied memories, not all at once, little pieces. My laugh, my breath, my voice when I cried. I clenched my jaw. And they stored them? To train other slaves, she said. To teach machines how to break people like me faster. My stomach turned. Then let's burn it. No, she said, suddenly firm. We don't destroy it. We show it. I hesitated. That's risky. No one believed me before, she said. If they hear my scream inside these vaults, they'll know it was real. I started scanning canisters, watching the codes shift as the chip decrypted them. Audio logs, video snippets, neural maps. And then I saw it, one marked AXR791AS. Asira, I breathed. She stepped forward, hand trembling, and touched it. The canister glowed brighter. It activated a holographic playback. A projection formed between us. Her, naked, wired to a chair, eyes wide, a voice speaking off-screen in a language neither of us recognized. Asira didn't flinch. I did. This is what they showed buyers, she said. See how compliant she is. See how pure. A product that feels. I reached for the console. We upload this. We broadcast it everywhere. Let the universe see what they call commerce. She nodded. I connected Tornik's uplink key and initiated the leak. Every major data hub in the free zones lit green. The signal was going out. Unfiltered. Untouchable. How long before they trace us? I asked. They already have, she replied. The alarms went off before she finished the sentence. Red lights flared. Voices echoed down the vault corridor. I grabbed her hand. Run! We sprinted through the stacks as shadows closed in. I fired behind us. No time to aim, just to keep them back. Asira moved with unnatural speed, her body remembering what survival demanded. We reached the exit just as 3 drones dropped from the ceiling. I threw the jammer high and shot it mid-air. The explosion scrambled their sensors. Left, she shouted. We dove into a service tunnel, the world behind us bursting into chaos. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I didn't stop. Because now, finally, they were the ones running behind. The tunnels below Vault Delta 7 weren't on any schematic I'd ever seen, not even the corrupted ones Tornik pulled from the archives. They were older, pre-collapse maybe, before the Syndicate, before the city forgot how to care. The walls were layered with condensation and flickered with old filament strips, dying one by one. Our footsteps echoed like we were ghosts haunting a forgotten artery. We moved in silence. The only sound was our breath and the distant wail of alarms above. Asira's cloak was torn, her shoulder grazed, but she moved like a shadow. I followed her lead now. Something about this place felt familiar to her. You've been down here? I asked. She nodded. When they moved me between blocks, they thought I couldn't remember the path. They were wrong. We turned through a collapsed junction where roots had burst through the wall. Nature had crept in, even here. Asira paused beside a moss-covered console, brushed away the growth, and tapped a hidden switch. A door hissed open. She stepped through without hesitation. I followed and found myself in a room unlike any I'd seen in the city. Circular, high ceiling, lined with what looked like crystal embedded into the walls. No screens, no wires, just resonance, the kind you could feel in your bones. What is this place? I asked. It's not human, she replied. It's a memory chamber. My people used to leave echoes behind in these walls. She walked to the center, placed her palm on a stone disc, and closed her eyes. The room lit up, soft, pulsing blue waves that seemed to sing without sound. Holograms flickered into existence, children playing under twin suns, towering structures of light and air, voices layered in chords I couldn't comprehend, but felt like lullabies. This was home, she whispered. Before the traitors came, before we were reduced to data and skin. I stepped closer. Asira, why bring us here? She turned. Because we can't just expose what they did. We have to show what was stolen. I looked around. This was more than memory. This was culture, identity, an entire civilization silenced and archived like a file to be deleted. I want to send this too, she said, with the footage. Let the galaxy see who we were. I nodded slowly. We can patch it into the leak. Tornik's server is still open. She walked toward me, eyes tired but blazing. Then helped me preserve what's left. We worked quickly. I rigged the uplink to my ARM console and fed the chamber's signal through it. The data moved like fluid, slow at first, then faster as it adapted to our tech. The holograms sharpened, the colors deepened. The stories started to stitch themselves together into something coherent. A message. Not one of anger or vengeance, but of remembrance. "We're ready," I said. She touched the final glyph, and the stream went live. Across the free systems, terminals blinked. Public feeds interrupted. People saw her face, heard her voice, watched the moment she was bound, and the moment she reclaimed her name. They saw the city's silence, the billboard, the blood. Then they saw this room, her home, her people, what was lost, and what still lived. The feed surged across space lanes. We stood in the chamber as it all went out, no longer fugitives, but witnesses. "What happens now?" she asked. I holstered my weapon. "Now we wait for the fire to catch." The room dimmed slowly, the projection fading like the chamber had given all it had left. I looked at her. She wasn't just the girl from the billboard anymore. She never was. She was a spark, and I knew sparks could set empires ablaze. We moved back into the tunnels. My comm link buzzed once. Tornik. "You're all over the net," he said. "They shut down 6 servers already, but not before the copies spread. You've started something." "Good," I said. "They'll come hard now." "Then don't die stupid. The syndicate's posted a kill bounty on both of you. High value." I ended the call and looked at Asira. "Guess we're famous," she smirked. I never wanted to be. Neither did I. As we climbed toward the surface, I felt the air grow colder. A storm was coming. Not rain, not wind. Retribution. But I was done hiding, and she was done being silent. They tied her to a sign and thought no one would look. But I did. And now, the whole galaxy was watching. The streets were no longer quiet. By the time we surfaced, the city had changed. Not physically. It still wore the same rust and broken glass. But something underneath had shifted. People looked up. Screens pulsed with intercepted feeds. Whispers rode the air like sparks on oil. I saw the image playing on a dozen cracked walls, Asira's face, the moment the brand was burned off, and then her world glowing in that memory chamber like a forgotten paradise. They tried to censor it, but data moved faster than fear now. We ducked into an abandoned tram station near the merchant district. I knew we were being hunted. By syndicate trackers, by bounty harvesters, maybe even by citizens who thought credits were worth betrayal. But we had momentum. We had eyes. And for the first time, they weren't just watching us. They were listening. "How long do we have?" Asira asked, wiping dust from her cheeks. "A day, maybe less," I replied. "Depends how desperate they are." She pulled a shard of glass from her cloak and stared at her reflection. "I don't recognize her," she said quietly. "That's because she's becoming who she was always meant to be," I said. "Not a memory, not a tool, a fire." "And you?" she asked. "Why haven't you run yet?" "Because I started this with you," I said. "And I'm damn well going to finish it." A thud echoed above, then another. Drones. I checked my weapon, checked hers. Only 2 stunners left, half charged. No escape routes. The tunnels were too hot. I opened my wrist console. "One more card to play." "Which one?" "Tornik's backup." I activated the beacon. A pulse went out. Not loud, not obvious, but sharp. It pinged an old friend from my service days. His name was Kaiden, a smuggler turned activist, if you could call it that. I saved his life once in the frost zones. He owed me. "You sure he'll answer?" Asira asked. "No," I said, "but if he does, he won't come alone." The station lights flickered. The walls began to vibrate. Asira and I looked at each other. "They're here," she said. "Then let's make this count." We positioned ourselves behind an overturned bench. She took the left. I took the right. The tram tunnel roared with the arrival of a transport. Not public. Private. Syndicate black. The doors hissed open. 6 figures stepped out, dressed in obsidian armor with red-trimmed visors. No voices. No negotiation. Just weapons raised. The lead agent spoke, voice cold and digitized. "Return the subject, or be terminated." I raised my pistol. "She's not a subject. She's a witness, and you're already too late." They opened fire. We dove. Bolts scorched the air above us. My shoulder caught a glancing hit, burned like hell, but didn't stop me. Asira rolled out and fired a stun shot, direct hit to the nearest attacker. He dropped, convulsing. "Two on the flank," I shouted. She pivoted, took out one. I rushed the other with a broken pipe, slammed it into his visor, cracked glass. He went down. The other 3 advanced, too fast, too precise. "Asira, move!" She didn't. She stood her ground, arms open, cloak billowing like wings. The agents froze. Her body began to glow, not light, but memory. The chamber's energy hadn't faded. It had followed her. Her skin shimmered with glyphs. Her eyes ignited like twin suns. "You will not take me," she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. It vibrated. It shook the dust from the walls. The agent stepped back, hesitated. One fired. A flash erupted from Asira's chest, absorbing the bolt, redirecting it back. It struck the shooter square in the face. Silence. Then footsteps from the upper floor. I turned my weapon, then paused. Kaiden and 5 others, armed, unmarked. "You always call at the worst time," he grinned. "Glad you're consistent," I laughed, breathless. "Told you I'd need that favor." His team opened fire. The remaining agents scattered. Within minutes, the station was empty, except for us. Asira collapsed into my arms, her light dimming. "I thought it would kill me," she whispered. "What was that?" I asked. "Legacy," she said. "I carried my people with me." I held her tighter. "And now you've shared them with everyone." Kaiden stepped forward. "You made the whole damn city look up, Isaac. They're protesting near the syndicate halls, chanting her name." "Good," I said. "Let them remember what they ignored." Asira stirred. "Not my name," she said. "All of ours, every voice they buried." And I knew then, we weren't done. Not even close. We didn't disappear. That would have been easier. Burn the footage, erase our names, vanish into the folds of some quiet moon. But the story had already taken root. You can't bury truth once it's been spoken loud enough. The syndicate tried. Within hours, they released counter footage, fake logs, manufactured trials showing Asira as dangerous tech, a rogue creation, nothing more than a corrupted asset. But people had already seen her cry. They'd seen her bleed. They'd seen her glow. There's no editing that out. Protest became riot. Riot became reckoning. From the refugee colonies in orbit to the domes on Solarius 9, people started painting her name on walls. Not just Asira, but names like hers. Names that had been lost. Names of the taken, the sold, the displayed. I stayed by her side. We didn't hide, but we didn't run toward cameras either. We let the world talk. We let the fire spread without fanning it. And in that time, she healed. Not just physically. I saw it in how she slept, no longer with clenched fists, in how she walked, no longer waiting for the sky to fall. "What happens if they offer peace?" she asked me one evening, as we sat above the skyline on a half-ruined watchtower. "Do we shake hands?" "Only if they offer their wrist for binding too," I said. "The guilty shouldn't walk free because they're tired of running." She nodded. "I don't want revenge. I want memory. I want consequence." "Then we build it," I said, "brick by brick, not just with proof, with people." That's when we started the archive, not hidden in some deep server but open source. Every story submitted, every scar mapped, every identity reclaimed. We called it the Echo Wall, a place where no voice went quiet again. They tried to hack it, bring it down. We rebuilt it every time, stronger, cleaner. By the 10th day, 23 million voices had added themselves. Some human, some not, some alive, some just remembered. The day they issued a bounty on me, dead only, I laughed. "You pissed off the wrong slavers," Kaiden told me. "Good," I replied. "Let them know what fear feels like." The strange part? People started protecting us. Unarmed farmers with drone blockers, street kids painting anti-surveillance graffiti, old smugglers running stealth food lines for our hideouts. One time, a corporate shuttle pilot even faked a mechanical failure just to delay a shipment meant for syndicate arms. The world had seen Asira, and in her, they saw themselves. Not a warrior, not a weapon, just someone who refused to vanish. Eventually, they sent diplomats, polished liars with clean hands. They offered credit, silence, a memorial. We refused. "You don't honor the past by building statues," Asira told them. "You honor it by never repeating it." When they offered to remove the bounty in exchange for shutting down the Echo Wall, we published the conversation live. That alone triggered 2 rebellions. There were days I thought we'd die in the streets. Days I woke up to smoke and knew someone had tried again to erase us. But we endured. Because she endured. One night I asked her, "If you could go back, if none of this had happened, would you have rather lived quietly?" She looked at me, those silver violet eyes steady as stone. "I don't want quiet. I want meaning." And she had found it. We both had. Not in revenge, not even in justice, but in awakening. The moment we choose to see someone else's pain as our own, that's the moment the world begins to change. It didn't happen in an instant. Empires don't fall in a day. But their roots crack when the truth echoes loud enough. Asira wasn't just rescued. She wasn't just seen. She was believed. That made her unstoppable. Years later, when the statues did go up, not by governments, but by the people, hers wasn't bound or kneeling. It was her standing tall, eyes forward, hand open. Beneath it, etched in every known language, were 4 words. We looked, we listened. And just like that, the billboard faded from memory. But her name never did.